Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Swizz.
And thank you for joining us. It's a special edition where these two fools don't go on for an hour and 10 minutes about four players. But before we move on, S Insider 100, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. These guys don't even get an intro today. It's all about me. It's my show. You guys ran without me. Thank you for holding and flying the flag, holding the fort, flying the flag. Joined by Chris and Swizz, something a little bit different today. Also look for us on YouTube. Search for Supercoach Insider, like, subscribe, get amongst that business. And today we're talking about Hawthorn. And it's pretty much the Sicily and Friends show, I think. Chris, take us off.
Oh, wow. That was a rapid introduction. I feel like we should slow it down, Swizz. It's a bit too fast and quick. We don't want to get through this in half an hour in like a decent time. So, yeah, all right, we'll start off. So Hawthorn, so they actually finished 13th last year, 8 wins and 14 losses, which I think is probably a little bit overs. Like they seem to be going and tracking all right, considering that they basically decimated their entire list. They only had a percentage of 89.75, but it was ultimately a development year, so you can't really complain. They've had another clean out, of course, so yeah, they're either going to stagnate or slide. But I really like this approach. They basically said to their supporters, and they're really open about it. They're like, look, we're not going to compete for a flag right now. We're going to rebuild. We're going to focus on developing through the draft. We're going to take some players where we can, and we want another dynasty. They've been really open about the fact that they just want to build for another big tilt at, say, a 3 to 5 year dynasty where they can just attack the premiership window. And I love that. I love it from a club perspective. I like that from a coaching perspective. It brings, a realistic goals all throughout the club. And I'm sure internally they're also saying, look, if we make finals, that's awesome. They're not tanking. That's one thing they're not doing. But they're just operating at a different frequency to other clubs that are all like, oh, yeah, well, we finished 17th last year, so we can totally make a run at the 8. Yeah, they're being realistic about their expectations, and I love it. So big list of changeovers, as I said. So in comes Carl Ammon, which was, I actually think, a really great recruit for them. Josh Bennett was a Category B rookie. Fergus Green, delisted free agent who came from their Box Hill affiliate. So he's actually a mature age recruit. Henry Hustwaite was a number 37 draft pick. Bailey McDonald, number 51 draft pick. Cam McKenzie, who seems to hit it off on the ground running, number 7 draft pick. Lloyd Meek, they obviously got over from Freo. Jack O'Sullivan was the number 46 draft pick. Cooper Stevens, they traded in from Geelong, so some nice trading there. And, of course, Josh Weddle, they were very, very happy to get at number 18 in the draft as well. Out goes Jackson Callow, who was delisted. Connor Downey delisted, so very short SC career for Connor Downey. Jack Gunston, of course, so the veteran there traded up to Brizzy. Kyle Hartigan was delisted. Daniel Howe was delisted and then picked up by North. Ben McAvoy retired. Tom Mitchell was traded to Collingwood, thank you, and they're also paying up his salary. And same with Jaeger O'Meara, traded to Freo. The GOAT, Tom Phillips, was delisted. Jack Saunders, obviously delisted, and Liam Shields delisted, and then obviously picked up at North as well.
Chris, how can a Collingwood supporter be like, oh, you're paying half his salary, thank you, when you're paying half of bloody Treloar's salary and some of Grundy's salary?
Because it's about damn time. That's why. It all evens out.
Yeah, or short memory.
It's the only way we can actually get anyone in the club. Thank you very much. They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to trade with the one club that can't afford his salary. Okay.
I don't mind their approach either, though, because if you didn't make those hard decisions, if you weren't giving Titch some of those CBAs, etc., you would have never seen Newcomb come through, and a few of these other people that they've really fast tracked because of it. And
well, they've obviously gone.
Yeah, get rid of Titch, get rid of Jaeger. See you later.
They've done the Titch trade to help Titch. Like that's the only reason why they've really done it, because they could have him on as a mentoring role and helping other guys out and maintaining with 40% CBAs, but that's obviously not going to help a guy that's 29 about to go 30 in the twilight of his career. He's got another chance at a big club. He obviously nominated them. He's a born Pie supporter, so this all was in favour of Titch. They're not paying half his salary because they want to help out the rest of the club. It's literally to help out Titch, who's a champion for them, won them a Brownlow, helped them win premierships. So I completely get it, and I respect that as well. More clubs should do that. They should try and help their veteran stars.
Well, Hawthorn have got that luxury, but to do the decisions they've made. When you win that many premierships in 30, 40 years, they can buy as much time as they want. But you're saying about before overs about 8 wins. It's actually quite amazing looking through their season because they beat Geelong, they beat Brisbane, they pushed Melbourne, should have probably beat you guys, got within 1 point of Carlton. That I think they were really close to Freo as well. That they could have actually made the 8 if they'd won those close games too, which is really surprising because when I went and watched them, I was just like, oh, this is just a development team. Now, obviously, this year it will be more than that. It'll reflect that. But yeah, Mitchell and Amira, who we've kind of discussed already, it's experience going out. But some of these kids, they were carrying that, and I think, they'll be an exciting team to watch for the next sort of like 3-4 years as they.
I'm really looking forward to watching these guys develop and watching the team develop and their systems develop. Like something that I really liked that what Sam Mitchell said last year is that they're not looking to train their guys in what's working in the AFL right now. They're looking to implement systems and procedures in place and how they play and game styles for what's going to win them in the next 3 to 5 years. That's a very different way to play football. Things like throwing Sicily, I think the last game last year, they threw him into the centre bounce. They were literally trying to do that to emulate what Geelong do in their games where they throw their intercepting defender essentially into the CBAs. If you win the clearance, great. If not, then they roll them back and then no one goes with them, so they're free. And so that sort of way that they're thinking, it's just like, oh, well, let's just try it. I love that. I love that they're willing to do it in game. They're not even you can try 100 things in practice and it'll work, right? You try it in a game, it's a completely different scenario. It may work, may not, but they're just willing to throw the dice.
Yeah, because the thing with the game is you've got different coaches in a box that aren't naturally thinking of your own strategy. Like you can practice anything at training, but your coaches, that team's in there because you're all sort of like-minded or you're trying to go down the same path. You know all the little behind-the-scene details of your club and your team and that. But to have another team there and another coach trying to pick through what you're trying to do, and that's where no practice is better than match practice.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, so I love them. I love what Hawks are doing. Nothing but love for the Hawthorn Football Club, that's for sure.
Speaking about match practice, boys, you have we gone through the fixture yet?
I'm literally about to. Thanks very much. Thanks for cutting me off, Ben.
Well, that's fine. We should already be halfway through one primo, and you haven't even got to the draw yet. It's been 7 minutes, and you've gone through the list and coaches.
I'm just praising. This is for the Hawthorn supporters, mate. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, they play twice. Freo, GWS, Melbourne, North Melbourne, St Kilda, and the Western Bulldogs. It's not too bad. Obviously, the first 4 against Essendon, Sydney, North, and Geelong, so 50-50 there. And then they've got the last 3 against the Dogs, Melbourne, and Freo, so a bit of a hard run home. They have the round 14 bye, which is preferable to the round 15 bye, so that one shy of the big one with the big primos. And then they've got the 12th hardest, which I suppose makes it the 6th easiest draw. 12th hardest. Yeah, 6th easiest, yeah. So not too bad in terms of their draw difficulty, but not amazing. And that pretty much is where they're at. They're sort of that lower run towards the bottom 6 era of the teams, and I'll be interested to see how they work out. But
where do you see them finishing? Where do you see them finishing?
Look, I see them going a little bit down. They've obviously lost a lot of experience.
So bottom 4?
Yeah, I think
they're winning the spoon. Genuinely,
I'm with you.
Harley Reid is an absolute gun. He's the next Ashcroft, Dacos, Walsh, Rowell. That, and I've heard the rumor from inside sources. They really love this boy. They want him in their team. I don't think they'll care if they win the spoon if it meant getting him to team up with McKenzie and Ward, because it would be the final piece for their midfield.
Also gives you some incentive to trade out a couple of those guys who aren't going to be there for your next premiership either.
That's right. I don't think they'll care less. They will they'll want to finish bottom, get this kid in.
No, but the thing is, like, I understand that. But this is not a team that is Melbourne orientated. What I mean by that is they're not going out to tank on purpose.
No, they're not going to go out and tank on purpose.
No, we're saying that their list at the moment with their trade outs, etc. I think they will finish.
They've done it to do that and develop, and I think it will. And as you said, I think though the players won't be, they will be willing to try things which will maybe sacrifice necessarily winning and that, but for the long term greater of the team.
I definitely see them as bottom 6. I'm just not sure. The mentality of them is going to be win. If the game's close, they're not going to change people around and be like, oh no, we need to lose this game.
Hmm.
I personally don't think that is the way that the Hawthorn Football Club are going to run. And so for that reason, I think that they will be close enough in some games that they can pinch wins. And the fact that they were that close, they knocked over big teams last year, means they're a bit further along than a lot of people give them credit for. I know that they've had losses, but again, Jaeger and Mitchell, they weren't operating at 100% CBA. They were only near 50%.
Yeah, well, that's why I said before they were actually not that far off. But I just think yeah, it's not the tanking, but I've just heard they so want this kid and that, and I would not be surprised if there's ways to facilitate games and stuff like that. Yeah, and I would like, and I think they try to get in as many games to Mackenzie, Ward, that group in the key areas where it's not. I guess how hard do you protect them? Anyway, well, that's more rookie chats and stuff like that. We'll know where they're at after round 6 because they play some of those other teams around the bottom in those first 6 games.
I think I've got Hawks, North, West Coast, GWS in the bottom 4 for me. All in a kind of transitional sort of period, like it's you can't transition and gut out and have a lot of experience go and have a whole bunch of young guys that you're trying to debut and get some blood into that are 1, 2, 3 year players. Even Brisbane, they brought in like McCluggage, Rayner, Berry, and all these guys, and they still didn't do very well for a period of a couple of years. Yeah. So
West Coast is the one a little bit unknown for me, but I think they're still around that 4 to 5. But I think definitely the Giants, definitely North, potentially Adelaide. But yeah, I think Hawthorn, North, and GWS are the clear, probably bottom 3.
The good news.
I don't know. I look at GWS's best 22 and I go, that's a team that still could do some damage. Well, I don't know.
No, they could, but the competition's pretty close.
That's also true.
Yeah. I also thought Collingwood would be horrible last year, but there you go.
St Kilda get 2 big injuries and probably down there.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a bit of an unknown, but let's jump into the premium. So obviously we've got James Sicily.
Only one premium too, boys. Don't even dare, Swizz.
Oh, come on, man. I've actually listed
Genuine
2.
One premium. Dylan Moore is not a premium.
He is a premium, mate.
Sure, buddy. So James Sicily, 624k defender. I'll be honest and say I was the first person. I had him in my team last year and then wrote him off basically because I'm like, back from an ACL. No one ever goes big their first year back from an ACL. It's probably the second year that they go better. And he absolutely cleaned up. They just did everything they could to release Sicily across that half back line. And he just did what he wanted to every single week. And he even just lulled everyone into a false sense of security. He went a little bit light in the first 6 weeks and then just went absolutely bonkers in the back half of the year. And of course, he was priced out. And I think you even, Ben, you paid up for him last year, didn't you?
I paid $600,000 for him during the season.
That was a good thing to do. I, on the other hand, was like, I'm not paying $600K for Sicily when I could have paid $450. I'm just gonna bet against him. And then he just kept showing up.
It hurts. And I think the worst part was I actually had an opportunity to get him. And I was flipping between a couple of people. And I think at that point, Sicily was maybe 510, 520. I was like, but he's 70,000 more. And he hadn't quite gone off yet. And I think I chose like Doherty, who was starting hot. And then Doherty, I paid 580 odd for. So I overpaid 586 or something for Doherty. And then all of a sudden, he started producing a few of the low scores before he came good in the end. And Sicily just kept going bang, 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 bang. And that was the story of my year, overpaying for everyone.
Yeah, well, it's the same. Doherty, at least Sicily did start throwing some 90s down in that second half of the year. But yeah, I think it was the Geelong game. I had the chance before that to get him. And then he pumps a 126. I'm like, he's not doing that against Hawkins and Cameron. There's no chance. And then, his run after that was just stupid.
I dare say it. There's actually value in him too.
I know.
A little bit.
Because he actually was the second biggest kick-out taker there. Blake Hardwick actually took 4 more kick-outs than him over the year.
Not to mention that Will Day was actually 4th on their list with 31. Yeah. So I think he had about 40% of the kickouts that Sicily had. Now, Will Day's playing midfield, which we'll get into, but that frees up 31 kickouts. And the good thing with Sicily is that he plays on more than anyone. 96% of the time he plays on out of the square.
Yeah.
Which is unreal.
Because he loves a stat. He loves a stat. He's the Rory Laird of Hawthorn, 100%. He loves a stat.
Who doesn't, Chris? I hear you usually like to shave it back and give yourself a bit more a padded stats. I say not.
Hey, look, should we plug Manscaped?
Doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile.
Winning's winning, right?
Winning's
yeah.
winning.
No, look. I think at the end of the day, he's in the conversation, right? The only reason why I haven't, and of course, the ball's going to be down there a lot. It's going to continue to be down there a lot. Is his role? I think they've sort of given up on the whole "we're going to play you forward" thing. So that's out of the picture. What do we see him doing this year? Because we average 113. What's his? Is he going up? Is he staying the same? Is he value? He's not value at 624K. Are you getting much of the muchness? Are you waiting for him to drop a bad game? I mean, how many times did he go below 100? I don't think there was many, was there?
I think it's the question, did he go below 90? Because I don't think there was
84 round 2, 84, 87 round 15, and otherwise it's like 90, 90.
His floor is amazing. Like,
yeah,
as good as it
is, and it's unreal. But my concern is probably who he shares the backline with, and it's not a huge deal, but yeah, Giath, he only played, I think, 14 games, probably wasn't that fit for it as well. I think carried some injuries. So he's also someone who can intercept and sort of rebound. That's the only concern for me. And it's a real small concern. It's not a big one. It's more of, and again, I could have got him for $160,000 cheaper last year. So why would I pay up? It's that mentality.
Now, his ceiling's good, but his high score obviously was 147 versus Gold Coast. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a good ceiling, but it's not Tom Stewart type ceilings, Yeah. So
even Doherty's gone 170 before and that. Like, this league's not pumping out at 170. It's at that Stewart.
What he did last year? He just kept plugging away, and his score just kept ticking up. And his price kept ticking up, and just slowly. Like, it was never this huge like bump, bang. He's unattainable. And that is as one of the things that sort of works against him in terms of if you want to choose him, because you probably can pick him up a little bit cheaper during the season. There'll be a game that he'll drop, a 90 or whatever, and they'll back it up with another 90, and then all of a sudden he'll be worth 580K or something like that. Now, it's he's not stupidly cheap, but it's definitely cheaper than what he's actually producing right now. So a little bit interesting there. I like him. And for someone who my structure is the sole, I'm having one defender. He's definitely in the conversation for, okay, who am I going to get? Some of it could be based on what buy round you have. That's the sort of hair splitting that we're doing when we're talking about someone like Sicily versus Stewart or versus Dawson or all these guys. What does that 20K do for you as well? 20K can be a lot right now. We're all searching for value. 20K gets you from Titch to Green. Like that's a 20K can be quite a lot in terms of the play that you're able to snap up. It can be the difference between getting a average rookie or a really good rookie, or Parish and Bott. So these sort of minute 20K here or there, I think it does add up. And how many teams is he in as well? What's his current percentage in terms of teams?
I will tell you that. Hang on, I did.
I don't think he's.
I was just looking at literally. So I was about to tell you that. I was looking. He's in 26%.
Oh, right. Fair enough.
Okay, so that is pretty high, but is that the highest of those defenders? I don't think
no, it's not. So the
Dacos is
because
higher.
we're on it. Yes, but of the main ones, so you got Stewart 38, Sicily's 26, and then Dawson 19, Doherty 16, and then Sinclair back at 8%. So
a lot of nuffies have their team this time of year too, boys.
Yeah,
it's a price. Well, I mean, sometimes people just go, "Oh, the most expensive defender." Yeah, I'll just plug him.
I know that a lot of the community really love him. And that, like,
I mean, I don't think there's no real reason not.
And he stands out in that Hawthorn backline.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's James Sicily. He's finally done what we all thought he would do, and he did it when he was priced at 450K.
High time on ground too, 95.8% time on ground.
I'm struggling to see the upside. I can't see him going out and going 113 to 115 again. I mean, like, it might only be a small drop to 110, and that even with their they should be worse, but then they've got some easy games as well, especially at the start. So, does he able to just does that mean anything where he can take intercept marks? Is the ball being down there? Does that help? Because does he have to play more lockdown? I think there's enough there to go. He probably just maintains. He might drop to 600, might drop a little bit less, but I think he just sort of stays there. It's not somebody, as we said, I'm going to get priced out at. He's not going to 650, 670. Where I'm like,
he's not going to 700K. You know what I mean? Like he's not. You probably worst case scenario, you got to pay what he was at the start of the season.
That's right.
Like, okay, yeah. Look, I think he's a great option. Is you're going to pay what you're going to get out of him, and if that's what you want, then absolutely lock it in. It's not a value selection. But it is. It's not a bad selection. So yeah, not bad at all.
What we talked about with Wits, isn't it? It's what we exactly said about Wits.
Yeah,
it's a safe, so let you know what you're going to get.
So Chad Wenger next. You want to talk about? Is that?
No,
we're talking about the forward goat, mate. Do you want me to talk
the forward
about this
goat? Oh, Rosie Connor. I didn't know we're at Port Adelaide already.
I'm going to pass this one on to Swizz just to fire a rocket up, Ben.
Who pays $521,000 for a midget that can't even kick a footy?
He's in 3% of teams for starters. Let's
just re-signed as well.
Yeah, and that 3% is your teams, is it? The 10 that you have going?
That's right. It's not just last year. You could actually see signs of this back in 2021. So I think it was his last 5 games, he averaged 104, 105, and he had 4 tons in the last 7 weeks. So, that move was coming. Congratulations to the very minute people who jumped on last year at the start, knowing that, this could happen with the way they were, swapping things around. Especially helped when he was starting to get more of those CBAs and midfield minutes around the ball. So there's talk about now that Mitchell and Amira are both gone, does that now increase his midfield time around that? Obviously, he's got more pre-seasons than some of these guys like your Wards and McKenzie's who are coming in. So you would think if that's how they're going to go, he might get first crack at that. We know he's still very good up in the half-forward line and even in the forward pocket. But, from pretty well day one, the start of the year last year was unreal. He even showed the ceiling, like against a team like Melbourne. Just come out and score a 147. It's what we always talk about. We want, it's all well and good. These guys, can go around that 90, 100 and that, but when they can actually pop off big scores, I don't know if you've got his CBA breakdown for that game there, Benny, when he played the
I'm
Melbourne
not looking
game.
at anything to do with Dylan.
No, he's
sorry.
I do.
I mean, what round was it, by the way?
It was round 7.
Yeah,
where's my boy
exactly here? There you are.
It's like he's taking him out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, so he didn't have any CBAs. No, he had no CBAs in them. So it's round 17 is when his CBA kicked in.
The fact he got 147.
Yeah,
without
so he was
even a CBA.
He can score without them, but
without them, which is even a better sign, isn't it? That you can come off the half forward line and still score a 147 doing that. And then later in the year when he was getting those CBAs, and I think
so 17, 8. So here's the keys. Round 17, round 18, round 19, he had 60%, 61%, and 56%. In those games, he went 135, 113, 124.
Exactly. So
then in round, so that was 17, 18, 19, that was 20. Round 20 went back down to 45%, and then he went up to 73% the week after. So he went down to 69 and then back to 101. So if he does get those mid minutes, he's absolutely set for an absolute rocket in terms of his ability to score Supercoach points. My issue is, I guess, and I suppose this is the overall arching issue with Dylan Moore as a selection, is who is that midfield mix? Because there's about 15 guys that are all could say, yeah, I'm getting some mid minutes this year. And I don't even know if the Hawks know how they're lining up round 1.
Yeah, and that's like we know Newcomb's in there, but then outside of that,
I'd probably argue Carl Ammon would absolutely be a lock. And the reason why, Carl Ammon wants to play inside. He had some inside time at Port, was loving it, actually thriving in it, by the way. And then they were like, they had some guys that were injured come back. They replaced inside, and then he just went back out to a wing. and then he got I want to get traded. He wants to play inside. I don't think that he would have gone to a club like Hawthorn without the promise of inside minutes. So I'm pretty confident that Carl Ammon is coming there not to play on the wing. He's probably playing inside. So if you've got Newcomb there and then you've got Ammon there as well, then you've got another bull in there at least, and then one or two rotational players that are going to get those inside minutes. Who are they? They've got some great talent coming through. They've got guys like Josh Ward. They've got Connor Nash. They've got Will Day, who's apparently, I think he's more of an outside, but he's getting some midfield time. They've got Connor McDonald. They've got Cooper Stevens now. James Warple, of course. What
Will
does
Day's
all
playing
of that
midfield.
look like? Yeah, but I think when he says midfield, I think that's wing. I don't think he's playing inside. If he has inside, it's like he might have 20% CBA. Like it's not.
Apparently, that's
like
where their discussion was. That's where they see him being in the future. So that's where they're putting him.
No, he's inside mid. Really?
Who?
As in, I'm keen to see it, but as in apparently their exit meeting, etc. They were talking about him being as a part of their midfield group. So I'm assuming that means in the centre bounce as someone who can evade and kick and have good decisions. But that was apparently the discussion. So that's where he's been talked about playing in the midfield because that's where they see him being in the next couple of years. So you might as well get him propped up.
I don't know about that.
Now, on the contrary, now let me just go through and tear to shreds Dylan Moore. And the reason is as far as standard.
Didn't we just say exactly like an open and shut case on why he's a good pick?
No. There's no open and shut case. And I'm going to tell you why. Because straight away off the top of the bat, there's 5 people that have more 100 pluses and less scores under 80 than Dylan Moore last year. That's number one. I mean, even you look at Daniel Rioli had more 100 plus scores as a percentage than Dylan Moore, right? And then if you kind of take into consideration as well, who averages more? Rosie Taranto. Who averages more? Rosie Taranto out of those and more? Well, I think you're not taking more. And then on top of that, maybe he is 6th place or equals 6th with Hawkins as far as 100 overs, maybe less scores under 80. But when you put it all together, then you have DPP and other people coming in. If Grundy's in the mix, if someone, like Boat gets a DPP forward, then all of a sudden Dylan Moore doesn't even make top 10. So you're paying 520,000. Now, if it's in draft and you want to knock your socks off, sure. Draft's a place where you can pick a player because you like watching them. He is not a standard relevant option. I don't care what you say. He'll be 10th or worse as a forward, and starting him over any one of those other 4 premiums that you should be starting is absolutely ludicrous.
What do you think he averages then?
What do I think he averages?
Yeah.
I'm saying 90 about that, maybe.
Went 95 last year, and then the tail end he went 104.
I don't care what he did in the tail end. He could grow a tail in Tasmania. That's how much I care.
Well,
he is not relevant.
When he had 4-game sample size, having over 56% CBAs, he averaged 118.25 in those 4 games.
Wonderful. I haven't heard a single thing about him getting more CBAs, even though they've lost 2 people. So again, you go Newcomb, Warple, Stevens, Amon, Ward, Will Day.
And I'm saying if he gets CBAs, he's a great option.
Then you're just pumping up tires on a truck you're about to demolish. Move on.
I just got a text from
Never seen someone so dirty on losing a bet before the bet's actually over. The bet hasn't even started yet, and he's so dirty on it. It's amazing.
He's a shit pick.
I just got a text from my partner. He just said, "Say CBAs one more time."
Hey, where's that place you like to go and dine?
You call about shenanigans?
Yeah, shenanigans.
Next person to say shenanigans gets pistol.
Who's next, Chris? Bam.
Actually, I took my headphones off just so I would keep talking and I couldn't hear you asking or trying to interrupt. I don't know if you noticed. I had my headphones off and I'm like, right, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say.
No,
okay, I'm going to make a conditional bet. If he gets over 50% CBAs for the year, he will average over 110. I'll make a conditional bet on that right now.
Hang on, what?
Oh, I like it.
Hang on. If
gets over
Dylan
50%
Moore,
CBAs,
yeah, for the year.
Yeah, for the year.
I'll take him overs for 110.
I'll give you 40 and 100.5.
No. 40 and 100.5. Nah. Because he needs a 50.
50%. Yeah, sure. I'll go $100 on that because he's not getting over 50%. And if he does, he's still a shit pick. Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's actually worse than my Chad Wingard beating Dylan Stevens and Dylan Moore, and we all know that was stupid. But
so I don't know. You can correct
worse.
that now, by the way, and just say that. Look, you think maybe Dylan Moore might be a average higher than Wingard, just maybe.
Yeah.
Oh no, I said that straight after I made that.
To round that up, to round the chat off, and that for people out there, that I don't think it's a terrible start. I think there's the hard thing is because we've got Cornelio, Dunkley, Taranto, Rosie Butters, does make it a bit harder to start. But if those
impossible.
If those 2 practice matches, he lines up in the midfield and plays 50% CBAs of that, then we've really got something to think about there.
I hope he sucks you guys in so hard. I am not even kidding. And then you go, oh, I wonder why I'm ranked 1,000th and I'm in 70th.
He's up, hater. All right. You're sounding very 5th place right now. You need to just take a back seat.
All right. Here we go. Next.
5th place.
Just like the Lions last year, mate.
In finals, mate, which is where it all matters. Thanking you.
Sure. All right. So we'll move to potential breakouts. So there's like about 7 of them. I'll just list them and then we can talk about who we want to talk about. So I've already chatted about Carl Lemon. I do think he gets a lot of inside minutes. He's a 508K mid. I just want to see it because I know he can score inside. I'm not sure how much that makes him a viable target, but definitely draft worthy.
Is it Amon or Amon?
Amon.
Yeah, I'm tripping balls. You've said his name. You've said his name 2 or 3 times, and I'm sitting there going,
well, let him go.
Sorry, I have a friend called Amon, and he's spelt the same way. So
do you even know the game?
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, do you know how to say Callahan as well, or Callahan?
All right, John Newcomb, 478K mid. So we know he's got the keys to that midfield. Yeah, what's his output look like? Again, I think it's more of a draft option than a potential standard option, but who knows?
I'm gonna see how many teams he's in because I've seen him appear, but you go on.
Lloyd Meek, 431K ruck. I think he splits that with Reeves. I'm not sure if that's not a standard option. Will Day, 362K mid. Of course, we've discussed him. Josh Ward, 351K mid. What sort of CBAs is he looking at? What's his role going to be this year? Played a lot forward last year. Is he going to move more forward towards the midfield? Is he going to play more time on ground? These things are important. Warple, 309K mid. What does he do this year? Is he an option? I know that he's a very popular option in Stan. I think he's very highly owned, surprisingly highly owned, in my opinion. So I want to chat about him. There's Connor McDonald, of course, at 279K forward, and then Cooper Stevens, 265K mid. So he wouldn't have gone from the Premiers to Hawthorn if you didn't think that there was an opportunity there for him to stake his claim in that midfield. So those are all guys that can have an absolute breakout. Whether or not they do is all going to be role dependent, and unfortunately, we just don't really have that information just yet. What do you guys think of the Warple 309K mid? A lot of people are running Warple as that.
Yeah, Warple's nearly 9%, and then Newcomb's nearly 4%.
Yeah, that's a
Newcomb,
lot.
Okay, so they're going for a premium on Newcomb, but I reckon Warple's probably tied in with Stevens for me because one of them's probably getting the better role. And again, you're not going to know until that preseason hits. They're fairly similarly priced. I think 50,000 or less difference. I think one of them probably gets more shake of the tree, to be honest. And I'm interested to see who. I think Warple had a little bit of an issue, but I think he's back training fully now. A little bit of a slow run in.
I wouldn't be surprised if Warple doesn't get an inside mid role this year. I think he gets traded at the end of the year.
I think he has to get that. Even to boost his value, he needs to get a fairly good role.
This is a make or break year for his career. If he doesn't show out this year, he's done. Like, they've traded away their 2 premier midfielders. He's only really a decent midfielder. His ball use is obviously always questionable, and that's really his biggest issue. If he doesn't show out this year, he's done because they have talent waiting to just replace him like that. And I'm sold on the fact that if he doesn't actually perform, it's done. So if he might even, I don't know, is he best 22? Like, let's say he comes out. I actually was
surprised he survived and didn't get traded. And I had heard a little bit of rumblings about him potentially going to Richmond if Hopper or Taranto had fallen over. But obviously once those deals started going there, a couple other clubs had come up. But yeah, I had heard it, which I was a bit worried about because I was like, but I know there's a lot of love for him in the community, especially after that year he went 88. So, he is a bit of a fan favorite. where probably there's people that I respect in the Supercoach community, which I have seen Newcomb in their teams. So it's only his third year. They're thinking the big third year breakout's coming up. He's gone from 53 to 86, I think he was.
Got to be Katter, surely. Katter would be the one to throw him in there, surely.
I'm not sure. I'm sure there is. So I've seen a couple of people sent me their teams as well, and he's been locked in there at M5.
Everyone likes a fairy tale, though.
Well,
that's why people go to romance
he's going to be
movies.
He's going to be their number one midfielder this year. So what's the number one? What's the worst case? And he's going to average like 100.
The thing is, often, but that's not enough.
No, it's not enough. But
that's what I mean.
Could it be? Can it be like 105 gives him 20 points on his value? And we talk about that M8 we were talking about the other day about firstly using that cash elsewhere, but if you're picking somebody who's average, pricing you at 85, and they're going 105 for you, even if it's up to the buy period, and that's great value to have in your side.
Yeah,
still 100 points off by the buy though. I don't know. I think you need one.
He's only 40k to Mitchell. You know what I mean?
Like, that's probably more my issue. If he was 400, I think it'd be nearly a no-brainer. But he's probably just that too much. That if he'd gone 80 last year, and you go, okay, he could jump 80 to 100, but the 86, I don't know if he'd have to go. I'd want 105 to 110 min at that price, and I don't think he's going to jump another 30 points.
Yeah, that's my thing as well. I don't think he's a type of player. I think he's like more of a Cunnington type. That sort of 100 to 105 max. Yeah, that's going to be his ceiling.
That's why I've got him out.
Pretty sure Cunnington's gone more than that a couple of times.
I think
he's gone more than 105.
Slightly, maybe. I don't know about that.
He did tail off one year as well.
110 bracket, but like that's
even that's no man's land in terms of Supercoach options.
Supercoach,
especially keeper leagues. I do think Will Day is possibly a standard option if he is inside in that midfield, and I agree. I have reservations because I still see him as that sort of skinny, lanky kid, right? So I'm like, in the midfield, he's probably going to get beaten up or whatever. But again, the issue is he's like $30,000 more. Great. Yeah, well, he's like $30,000 more than Yo and some others, and I think there's even Caulfield, etc. As an intercepting role or someone else that might actually get some kind of CBAs, etc. I think there's probably better value.
He's a mid only, is he? Will Day?
Yeah. No, he's a defender. I thought.
Is he defender? I thought he was a mid only.
He's a defender.
Yeah, Will Day, defender.
Well, that makes it a little bit better.
That's why he's in 3.
Yeah, and he averaged 79 last year. So not 2022, but in 2021 he averaged 79. And if you move him inside and actually play midfield, the only other catch is he's only played 54% of the last 3 years. So he always gets injured.
His body's... And that's the thing. Like, how can you throw him inside?
It's probably about as good as Elliot Yo, to be honest. I wonder if Yo's even played 50% of the last 3 years. Probably not.
So I don't know. Look, I suppose at the end of the day, we need to see Hawthorn and how they're lining up. Like, I don't think you can make an educated assumption that any of these guys are going to be good without seeing these practice games coming up. So we can talk them up as much as we want, but we just need to see it first. And that's the problem, I think, with the Hawks' current structure. We know Sicily. We know to a certain extent, how his role is going to be. It's going to be pretty much similar. We saw a little bit of a glimpse of him getting some CBAs, which I'm not sure how that's going to impact his scoring positively or negatively, but I think he's about the same. Everybody else is sort of throw a blanket over him and see what happens. So,
can we talk about the biggest issue at Hawthorn that is up in the air? Their ruck line.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's up in the air. I think it's pretty much standard, right? So Lloyd Meek will ruck with Reeves, right? I think is that not already, or is everyone not on that same bus?
We know Meek can play forward. Show that he had to do
not great though. I thought Meek was the one that pushed Darcy forward. I thought when Meek went in to the Dockers, he kind of pushed Darcy forward because Darcy was a better forward than Meek was. But I have heard, the only thing I've kind of heard is that they're all three are fit and they're kind of not determined as far as what their best system is, whether they play one or two, but they're all kind of battling against each other. I think it is Meek and Reeves at top 2 on that list. And I have heard that Meek is practicing his goal kicking and his forward craft, probably because he's wanting to try and add an extra bow in there in case he isn't the first pick. So I think there is something to watch. But for 431,000 for Meek, 87 average for 6 games at Freo, he did do well when he had the chance. Mainly because I think Darcy pushed forward and that kind of killed his average. And the other one
He's
is
priced
Reeves
himself out, basically.
Yeah, if he's 350, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, and Reeves is 356, but I think what did he go about 82 or something the year before that as a ruck, and again, it's not really going to probably cut it, but there is a little bit up in the air as far as how they set up 1 tall, 2 talls, etc.
It's one of those ones where an injury all of a sudden brings things into question. You go, okay, well now we can look at getting Meek in the team if say Reeves goes down or whatever. Obviously, they've still got Lynch there as well.
Yeah, they played Lynch and Reeves together at some point, and then I think it was Lynch got injured. And,
Lynch got injured like the first, I think in like the first set of bounce or something like that.
And neither of them scored well.
Yeah. So on the rookie front, of course, Cam McKenzie is probably the big one. Coming in pick 7, 180k mid. Does he get straight thrown in the guts? Is that how they operate? They're just going to blood their really talented youth this year, potentially. There's an opportunity for that. I've seen Cam McKenzie in quite a lot of teams at this point. Whether or not he's a placeholder, whether or not he actually gets games, again, up in the air. But I've heard some really good things about him, so I'm not writing him off just yet.
I don't think he plays midfield straight away, but half forward potentially.
Well, he's got the opportunity because it's the Hawks, right?
Yeah, but it's still Ward gets more time first, because he's got that extra year on him.
Yeah. Apparently, all that came out, I think, was from it wasn't from the coach himself, but one of the assistants or someone or other said, he was impressive during match sim, doesn't look out of his depth, and could push for an early debut. So they're kind of giving you some incentive, like, hey, you're impressed, and you kind of you don't look like you're treading water. But I think there's probably some better options that look like they're ahead. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets named at some point. But the issue is, again, at that some point, I'm not downgrading to a $180,000 player unless he pops off some 90s.
He's probably got to be he's probably got to be one you start with, because you're not looking for a downgrade option that's 180k when you could be downgrading someone from 220. That's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah, it's the way they've lined up the last, like we talked about 2 years ago with Newcomb, and then last year Ward and McDonald. They give them they were happy to start them. They'll give them tastes and stuff like that, and then the year after they get that more of a role, and then the year after that, So I feel like
I'm still
he probably
triggered.
Starts round 1. I'm not picking a guy in a team that's going to be bottom 4 who's going to likely play up in the forward line.
And Ward and McDonald took
forever. Not like Tyler Brockman last year, hey buddy?
Oh no, it was the year before Brockman. No. Brockman was.
Brockman's still on their list.
Yeah.
And he's now 123k forward.
Yeah, and apparently he's doing quite well. He's quite agile, and he's taking that forward pocket by storm, I hear. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's best mate too.
Well, he could be an option, and he's only 123k again. This is what I mean. So he's on my list. I'm like, well, anything can happen if he gets a run at it. Yeah, and he did actually have a few games there where he scored quite well. The problem is his role, obviously. He's also going to be a sub risk. As in, being a sub and starting that way. So
not if they're playing 2 rucks, though. Not if they're playing 2 rucks every game.
No, not to come off, but to be named as a sub.
Oh, to be on, for sure.
Yeah.
I reckon they probably want someone more dynamic than a forward pocket to come on as a sub, though.
Well, he can run up. He can push up the ground. He's not bad at getting up the ground.
If he's running drinks, he can push up the ground as far as he likes. I don't think it's happening mid game though. But I do like him as a pocket. And maybe half forward, I guess. I think he's closer to goal is where he's dangerous.
Yeah. So Josh Weddle's obviously the other one, though, guys. 130k defender, hasn't left my team since the glowing reports about how he's just basically slotted straight in there across that half back line. Beautiful user by foot. I think he's AFL ready from the get-go, and I do believe that he probably starts. He hasn't left my side pretty much since, I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd week of Supercoach opening. He slotted in and hasn't left. I actually think that he could be good enough to get an on-field scoring role. However, I'm leaning towards starting him on a bench. And then if I get injury or someone comes out or whatever, I've got decent cover there at a really great price point that I haven't had to invest a lot into that I can just throw on. Alternatively, I don't know if you guys saw my team reveal to my February team today, but if he ends up being a really good scorer, you can throw him onto your field and then throw, say, a Jinbi into your midfield or vice versa via some DPP switching. So there's able opportunities to be able to get him onto the field and not necessarily keep him on your pine. But right now, I think he probably should or deserves to be everybody's D7 and see how you go from there.
It's not
100%.
often someone comes out and wins a team's first time trial. So they had 4 1-kilometer time trials. He won every single one of those 4, which is crazy. And then I think it was, I'm not sure again, it wasn't the coach, but it was one of the assistants or someone else within the club was like commenting on how great it is to see young players come out and come into that system so well prepared and mentally, physically, mentally, and fit enough, ready to play AFL football.
Well,
So
it
you already
obviously
know
helps that we're now
he's
not in the COVID years, right? So, that does help. Then they've probably had a big flip of completely underprepared, where now they're like, oh, now we're completely not overprepared, but ready for what's about to happen.
Ashcroft is the
in 2
same.
years.
The diligence, the preparation, and then he got asked as well about, oh, hey, everyone's, you're doing really well and everyone's really keen, et cetera, et cetera. And he goes, oh, well, the preparation I've done has just got me to the starting line. And now you need to kind of go and prepare and learn and take that kind of growth mindset to improve, to be better, because once you get to the starting line, your race only just begins.
The other thing is, there's one thing being fit. Anyone can run. Ask Tom Phillips. You can run. but that combined, having that ability combined with your foot skills, your footy IQ smarts, the physically hard body, that's really hard as a first-year player. And picking it up that quickly.
Yeah.
So, props to him.
Tuke
and
Miller,
I do believe,
unreal. Someone who can run and hit, unreal.
Yeah. They don't just fall off trees. So, I'm really interested. I've heard nothing but great things about him, so I can't wait to see him in action in the preseason. So, any other guys that you wanted?
I'm going to say Fergus Green because he's in 10%. He's the I'm going to say the Gunston replacement. Played at the Bulldogs for, was it 3 years? Played only the 5 games. Might have been 4 years there. Spent the last couple of years back playing I think it was the VFL. I'm trying to think where he when he went to
played
Box
Hill last year.
Box Hill.
Yep.
So he's been in their system. And now he's obviously found himself on the list at 25 years old, so that mature age person. And I think that's because it's harder to, bring in some of those forwards. Like how many young forwards can you kind of have up in that forward line setup? They've already got the young, I'm trying to think, Mitchell Lewis. It's like there's Lewis Mitchell.
I was going to say, if he does
Mitchell
get a
Lewis
game,
down there, who's a young one. So maybe with Gunston going, they wanted more a senior body to play that third, kind of hit up person. So it could be one to definitely start the year. And not surprised he's already in that many teams.
Caution to the window. Mitch Lewis did have an ACL sprain and will miss the opening rounds. So if he does get named, if he gets named, it's kind of great, but
I think they could probably both play because it's not like Fergus Green's a big 196 guy. He's a 187. He's that
okay, fair enough.
He's that third type. I think it's a senior
bit more
body.
mobile. He's not also a type that generally you would put as a sub either. So
no, I think it's a direct Gunston experience replacement there.
I like it. I think that he could definitely play games this year, and maybe potentially early as well. So not a bad option.
Yep.
I think that sort of rounds us up, guys. Do you have anyone else
pretty much.
You wanted to
just one more. Chad Wingard.
I almost got out of this without having to talk about him.
I'm not going to degrade us and talk about standard, even though he is 352,000 and has averaged extremely well in the past. I think even last year.
For the same price, I could go and get Will Setterfield, guys.
In 2021, he averaged 92, so I think there are a lot worse options to be considered. But for draft purposes, I think as far as someone who averaged 64 and has the potential to at least go 80 plus, right? So I'm not talking about the bet or 90 plus or wherever I saw Dylan Moore finishing, but in general, I'd be quite happy to have him as a bench option in a draft league and going 80 plus, yes? As a possibility. Your bench players are interchangeable anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's a forward.
Yeah.
Forward only.
Maybe. I mean,
maybe.
What else are you going to do on your bench? You're going to pick some other, second, third year player?
Literally every other podcast I've given great bench options.
No, I'm pretty sure Chad Wingard would be the best option compared to...
I'm going to let that slide through the keeper, buddy. You can take
the GWS one. Here's Nick Haynes, who's averaged 88 before, and just pick him up as your last defender and your last pick. He will play.
That's tripe.
No.
Tripe in comparison, like your Dylan Moore as a premium.
All right. Well, I suppose that sort of rounds us out for the Hawthorn pod, guys. Thanks for listening in, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.